Okay, let's
Yep.
kick it off.
Let's get started. So yes, for our next speaker, we are going all the way to Sweden. So I think the prize for the speaker that's furthest away goes to you, Niall, tonight. So good luck with your session, and the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Niall Brady is my name. I'm a 9 times Enterprise Mobility MVP, working with Configuration Manager, my day job, and of course, Intune. So today's session, I wanted to focus on the new cloud features in Configuration Manager Technical Preview, which might sound odd to some people, but the technical preview version of Configuration Manager is where you want to be looking. If you don't have a lab that has technical preview enabled, you need to set one up really quickly. You can download the latest technical preview, which is 2000-002, and then upgrade it to the latest technical preview, which happens every month. So the baseline for technical preview releases is 2002, which is 2020-02, which is February, okay? And then you can upgrade it to TP2005, which will be what I'm talking about today. And the reason why technical preview, Configuration Manager Technical Preview is something that you need to focus on is because that's more or less what's coming in Configuration Manager current branch soon, right? So better to learn it now and figure out how it works and provide feedback to Microsoft than to figure it out later. So let's just get on with it. See if I can figure this out. Okay, this is the agenda. I'm going to talk about understanding tenant attach, operational value of tenant attach, enabling tenant attach, and so on. You can read that yourself. The whole purpose of this is really to get you to experiment with tenant attach and see what value it gives you. And there is a lot of value, right? And it's really exciting as well. So understanding tenant attach. Tenant attach itself is not the same as co-management. Co-management is where devices are managed by Intune and Config Manager. That's where the co-management part comes in at the same time, with some or all workloads being managed by Intune and some being managed by Config Manager, or vice versa. But with tenant attach, the device doesn't even need to be enrolled into Intune, right? And basically, you can even have servers reporting up into the cloud. And the beauty of this is it's basically whatever is in your site is what will end up showing in the MEM console. And MEM, for those of you that are not aware, is Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which is where Microsoft is moving Intune, Config Manager. It's moving forward towards this one place where you can globally manage your devices, and that's in the cloud, of course, right? So tenant attach, as I've just said, is where you literally attach your Config Manager site to the cloud. What's available today is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, why do I say that? The reason why is because what you see in Configuration Manager 2002 current branch are 3 actions, which is very little, really, but it gives ability to help desks to solve solutions quickly, right? For example, sync policy, sync application policy, and so forth. But what's coming is what you will see in the technical preview releases. So I highly encourage you to download and install the technical preview releases to see this new ability and to try it out. And if it doesn't work for you, provide feedback to Microsoft so that they can fix it and improve it. All right. So when I say what's available today is just the tip of the iceberg, I really think that that is the case, that what we're going to see here is a huge increase of actions, abilities, and so forth within MEM. All right. So the operational value of Tenant Attach, what does that mean? It means, okay, well, what am I going to gain from enabling Tenant Attach? And Tenant Attach is basically one setting within Configuration Manager today. And that is, it gives you certain management tasks and workflows within the MEM console. The MEM console, I'll show you soon enough. It gives you visibility of all your Config Manager systems in the MEM console, including servers. Yes, you will see servers. Not in my demonstration because I pointed my MEM devices to all Windows 10. Sorry about that. In Technical Preview 2005, you can view devices from, you can view device timelines from Endpoint Analytics. And that's really cool because you can see, well, what has happened on this device? Did it, blue screen? What was the problem? Was it booting every 2 minutes? And so forth. So you can it will help the end user, not the end user, but the person supporting the end user to troubleshoot why this device is operating slowly or having a problem, right? You can also trigger client notification actions, including sync machine policy, sync user policy, application evaluation in Configuration Manager 2002 current branch today, and in Technical Preview 2005, which I've encouraged you to install and try in a lab, gives you additional abilities such as trigger application installs, and it's real time. I mean, I'm going to demo it today, and if the demo gods are with me, you're just going to be impressed, or you're just not into this, okay? So application installs, run scripts, and perform CM pivot. It's the most exciting period you will ever see in Config Manager, and it's happening right now. So if you haven't installed and set up a Technical Preview lab, please do so. It is what you need to be doing, okay? So to enable Tenant Attach, there's a lot of prerequisites, things that you need to do. I've blogged it, and I will show you where my blog is and how to find it, and how to find the link to the blog that will show you how to install it. But here is a summary, right? So what I will do at the end of this session is I will obviously share the PowerPoint so you can click on the links and get that information yourself, so you don't have to go searching. But if you want to search, you can search and you will find my blogs. So, enabling Tenant Attach. What you can see here in the Technical Preview Configuration Manager console is I'm turning on a feature, right? And it's labeled feature type cloud. And what does that mean? It basically, these features are abilities that are released to the Technical Preview version of Config Manager that allows you to experiment with stuff that's new, right? And the fact that it says feature type cloud, that's it. It basically connects to the cloud and gives you new cloud abilities, of which there are many, right? And those many abilities are really exciting, and they're only one step to the future of where we're going, which is cloud management totally, right? So I've got a link there where I tell you to read more, and you can click on that and it will show you how to enable Tenant Attach. But in a nutshell, what you need to do is fulfill the requirements, because there are some requirements on the back end in Config Manager and both in Azure AD. And once you've done that, you can start the co-management configuration wizard within Configuration Manager and enable the checkbox to upload Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. That's this one right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but that's what I'm pointing at. So that's what you will see when you start the co-management configuration wizard. If you've already configured co-management, you can click on the properties of co-management, and the option will be there, so you can actually add the checkbox. So you can add it after the event. All right, and I blogged that also, so you can learn about it. All right, so now we're going to take a brief look at the Microsoft Endpoint Manager console with Tenant Attach actions. And this link here, aka.ms/memac, is Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. So if you remember this, you will always get to the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. You could, of course, also put in endpoint.microsoft.com, but here's another one. All right, so let's do that. That at least. Here. Okay. So here we have my lab. And okay. Here is Configuration Manager 2005 Technical Preview. And basically what it means, the 20 is for the year 2020, and 05 is the month. So that's May, right? So there will be a new technical preview probably released at the end of this month in a couple of days. So it'll be Configuration Manager 2006 and so forth. And sometimes they release two releases in a month. So you'll see something like 2002.2. And interestingly enough, the 2002.2 was where the Tenant Attach feature first showed itself in a Configuration Manager. So what are we going to see here? So basically, if we start up a console, we go to aka.ms/memac. This will bring up the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. If we click on Devices and go to Windows, Devices, you can see that I've got a bunch of devices here already in Configuration Manager in the Microsoft Endpoint Manager console. And you can see that some of them are listed as co-managed, some of them are managed by Config Manager, and some of them are managed by Intune. That is the beauty of this, that we have devices managed in different ways, but they're all showing up within the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. So let's take a look at this one here, which is co-managed, and see what sort of details that we have available to us. So up here, these options here are what you will see pretty much already today for co-managed devices. But you also have this ellipse here, which is these three dots. And if you click on it, you have these additional options to sync machine policy, sync user policy, and app evaluation cycle. Those three actions right there are basically provided by Tenant Attach, right? So I've logged into the MEMAC console, and I'm showing you three abilities that are available today if you are using current branch 2002 or technical preview version 2005, right? So, and you fulfill all the requirements, of course. So those three options are there. So let's bring up a client, which would be this one. That's the one we're just looking at. We're just going to try something just to show you how real time it is. So what I've done is I've highlighted this particular string, requesting machine policy assignments from authority SMS P01. Okay, and remember this client is connected to basically the CMG, right? It's a co-managed client. The time is 11:45. So 11:44, nothing's really happening. Let's try and trigger one of these policies and see what happens. Okay, we'll click on yes, and what you should see, boom, there it is, immediate. So this client got the policy from the Endpoint Configuration Manager Admin Center directly. It was instant. Have you ever seen Configuration Manager be so fast? So what happens is basically this connects to your Config Manager infrastructure and uses the BGP notification ability to send an instant notification to the client. And that's what you saw. It instantly got the notification and updated its machine policy. Okay, so same goes for the other two options that you have. All right, so let's go back to our PowerPoint here somewhere. Here, okay, installing applications. So within updates and servicing, you have this list of features, and I'll just point to the first one there, which is Microsoft Endpoint Manager Tenant Attach, and you see it says feature type cloud and status is on. That you need to enable that obviously to get Tenant Attach to work. But for the next thing I'm going to demonstrate, you need to also ensure that approve application requests for users per device is enabled. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So when you're actually deploying your application, and this won't work for packages, only applications, you need the application deployed to a device collection, not a user collection. And you need to select this option for an administrator must approve a request for this application on the device. So once you've done that, what should happen is it will show up within the Memac console. Actually, yes, within the preview version of the Memac console, you will see the application showing up and you will see a status. Okay, so clicking the application itself, you will have some options such as install or retry installation. And this should, if everything is working, install or reinstall the application. So let's jump back to the lab environment, which is this one. And let's try that out, shall we? So here we have a collection where I have deployed a bunch of devices. And this one here is online, and this is this device here. And what I want you to look at very closely is the start menu right there. And in fact, let's do this. Let's go to Programs and Features, and let's look at what applications are installed. Now, this is a live demo, so if things don't work out, I apologize in advance, but let's give it a try. Now, when it works, it's just great. So let's go for it. So in order to use the new cool Tenant Attach features, you can right-click on the device itself, and you'll see that there is a start option there, and there is also Admin Center Preview. Now, the word preview is there, and that's to tell you that this is preview. It's not going to be here for long. They will probably move it somewhere else. So this option, while it's there now, it's not going to be there forever. So we'll click on Admin Center Preview to see what happens. And what should happen is it should launch this website. And in here, this is a preview version of where Memac is going, or where endpoint.microsoft.com is going. So now we've got details on the device that we were looking at in Config Manager. We've got loads of details. I mean, look at this. There's the management point. It just so happens to be a CMG. We've also got the on-premise management point. We can see the last policy request, the MAC address, site code. We can even look at boundary groups. And we can see this one is in the CMG boundary group. But that's not what we want to look at right here. What we want to look at is, can we trigger the installation of an app, right? live in it as a demo. So the first app that you can see here, I have two apps, is 7-Zip. I've already installed it and uninstalled it. And the status here says install requested, but in fact, what it should say is uninstalled. So let's try and install it. So we click on the app and we click on retry. And that's what we're doing now. And what we should see over here is some magic happening. That is if the demigods are working with us. So let's see what happens. There it is. Look at that. I hope you saw that. It is actually installing the 7-Zip application. And if we go to programs and features and refresh, there is the application. So basically what has happened here is you've seen me connecting to a website anywhere in the world and basically installing an application on a config manager tenant attached client, just like that, by right-clicking and selecting it. That is amazing. And that is the power of tenant attach. It's part of the power, at least. Okay, so let's go back to this. All right, next, device timeline. So if you're familiar with Endpoint Analytics, then you will understand what device timeline is. It's the Microsoft version of, I guess, Nextthink, and there are other companies that do similar things where you can see, okay, well, what's happening on this client computer over a period of time? Is it blue screening? Has it got driver issues? Is it really slow to boot? Is it rebooting every 10 minutes? You need a device timeline to be able to see that sort of information. There's a bunch of requirements which I've listed there. One of the ones that's really important is you go into the computer agent and select Enable Endpoint Analytics Data Collection. This is not available in the current branch version of Config Manager today. You need to test this in the technical preview, which is why I'm saying technical preview is really cool. Okay, so as data comes in, it will auto-populate into the timeline. And what you see there is a version of the timeline of this machine that I'm looking at. What I would encourage you to do is to click on that filter button, because that's going to give you much more control over what you're seeing. Currently, there are like 7 providers of information for your device timeline, but you can expect that that's going to improve and increase in future releases, I hope. Okay, so CM Pivot. What is CM Pivot? CM Pivot is a ability within Configuration Manager, if you're using it already today, to run sort of queries on devices or groups of devices and get back information, right? So you already have that in Configuration Manager, but now with Technical Preview 2005, you have that ability if you're tenant attached. So if you connect your Config Manager site to your tenant using Tenant Attach, you will get this ability with Technical Preview. And it allows you to run queries that give you sort of information back, such as WMI classes, similar to that. And it's very powerful. And if you can imagine that your help desk users would use this information to gather information to help them support their end users, it's perfect. So this is coming, and you need to start testing it out now. So I've linked to some sample scripts and CM Pivot overview. There are a bunch of requirements that you need to fulfill, obviously. Okay, and after you've tried out CM Pivot, the next thing that you can see is scripts, running scripts. Running scripts you can do today natively in Configuration Manager, current branch, latest version. It's been there for a while. So basically you add scripts, you get them approved, and once they're approved, they will also show up within your tenant attached Memac console, right? Now, one thing that I didn't point out here is the fact that this Memac console is different to the one that you will view when you go to aka.ms/memac. The reason for that is because the the endpoint.microsoft.com Memac console is the current branch release, so it's the production release, but this is the technical preview release. So what you will see up there is the word preview, and you will see it several times. Microsoft Azure preview, preview.portal.azure.com, blah, 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 tech preview. There's a lot of previews in there. And the reason for that is because it's preview. So it's work in progress. But the only way to improve this and get it right is to try it out and use it. Okay, so now let's take a look at device timeline, CM pivot, and run scripts. Okay, so here we are back on our client, and we can look at the timeline. And by default, when you enable Tenant Attach in the technical preview release, or probably even in the current branch, you're not going to see a whole lot of detail. You're not going to see any detail in the current branch release because it's not available yet, but you'll see it in the technical preview. And the reason you're not going to see much details is because of the filters. So I want you to make sure to click on this filter button here. And in there, you will see that it defaults to 2 days. That's what it does for whatever reason. I think that's going to be improved or changed based on feedback that we provided to the product group. So let me just put in, let me put in the 30th of May, which is actually when the timeline feature was released from Microsoft within the technical preview releases. You can also see that the event levels, you can decide, oh, well, what do I want to show? Do I want to show errors? Do I want to show warnings? Do I want to show critical stuff? So this is a good reason to use the filter button. And again, the provider name, this is where the information is gathered from. So this information that you see live, pretty much, is gathered from these areas. And I think that this provider name list is going to increase. I think so. So let's click on apply. And what you see now is a very different view than what you saw a couple of minutes ago. Now we've got a view of this device over a long period of time, and we can see errors and so forth, right? So at the moment, clicking on them does not bring you down to the view here to give you information directly related to the problem that you had or the user had. But I think that in future releases, what will happen is we'll see an improvement here in terms of the overall experience. But this is what's available today, and I encourage you to try it out. Okay, next, CM Pivot. With CM Pivot, remember you can run queries on your devices. So let's try a very simple query. I'm just going to type in operating system, and what that should do is query the operating system WMI class on this device, which is Tenant Attached, and give us information back. And it should be relatively quick. At least it was when I tested it. So there we go. Right, so now we have a bunch of information back, and this pretty much matches up with the same information that you would get if you were to query WMI, except now you can do it from the Memac console. And again, here you can see preview, preview, tech preview. So remember, this is preview, so it may work and may not work. In scripts, you will see the scripts that you've already imported or added to Configuration Manager within the scripts section and approved. So only approved scripts will show up here. And what you can do is you can click on a script and then click on Run. And within a couple of moments, it will query that device. It'll run that script on that device, and it will provide information directly back to you in the Memac console. And there, it has done it. So it has taken a few seconds to give us information directly back using a script that we added to Config Manager. It's quite amazing, really. when you think about it. Okay, so hopefully I still have time. Let's move on. All right, VPN boundary type. What is that? This is the ability to use the VPN boundary or to use a VPN boundary during an OS deployment to make sure to also update the boot image to include the latest client binaries. So what this gives us the ability to do is to use a VPN for connecting with Config Manager. Now, we can create this as a boundary, right? So we create this VPN boundary type, so any devices that fall within that boundary type are treated as VPN. So that is an option that's available today. It's very limited. You can only create one VPN boundary type. There are certain issues with it, but it's available today and you should try it out. I don't have access to a VPN software, so I haven't been able to test it out, unfortunately, but it is available there. If you have the ability to test that, brilliant. Test it and click on the feedback smiley or frown within the Config Manager console to tell the Config Manager engineering group whether it worked for you or didn't work, for example, with Pulse Secure VPN. Okay. Next is task sequence media for cloud-based content. Now, what is this? This is actually an ability to PXE boot or USB boot, currently, a device at a remote location. And when I say remote location, let's say you have a remote office, 300 kilometers from your head office, and that remote office has a pretty crappy WAN connection back to the head office. Now, you don't want it pulling all this content directly from the head office because you don't have a DP in that remote office, but it can pull the content from a cloud source, aka your CMG, right? So that is exactly what this ability is. It's the start of allowing us to image computers in the old-fashioned way, if you want to say, but utilizing cloud-based content, right? So the first thing you need to do is go into your cloud services in your default settings or your custom settings and make sure that allow access to cloud distribution point is enabled. Next, you need to reference your cloud-based content itself provider, and that is my CMG. And next, you need to make sure that there is a check in prefer cloud-based sources over on-premise sources. And that tells the client that's PXE booting or USB media booting that it's going to go to the cloud instead of going to a local DP. Finally, you need to distribute your content to your cloud-based resource, which of course is your CMG, right? And that's what I've done here. So here's my CMG. There's the content that's on it. It's a whole bunch of Config Manager content. Lastly, you need to PXE boot or USB boot the device itself that you want to image using cloud-based content. And when you do so, the IP address that it has needs to fall within the boundary that you specified for the cloud-based content. Once you've done all those things, you can actually see it in action. So let's give it a go. Let's pull up a VM here. And what I want to show you on this one is that it has this IP address. And this IP address, 5.107, falls within my boundaries for cloud-based stuff. So let's just find that. Here's my CMG boundary group. And as you can see, it's 5.100 to 5.198. So if we go to the client, there it is, 5.107. All right, so let's close that and let's start off a task sequence because I want to show you this live and show you what actually starts happening. So first of all, it's going to pull policy, and it's actually going to pull the policy from the local management point. And when I say local management point, I mean your intranet, all right? Not your internet, okay? So here we have a task sequence. We have several task sequences. I think this one is enabled for Cloud OS sources. So let's go select that one and click on Next. And as you can see, it's resolving task sequence dependencies. So why don't we take a look at the SMS TS log, because that's, of course, is where all the magic is revealed, right? So let's wait a moment. It's formatting the hard drive. Hasn't really downloaded anything yet. We're not going to see anything amazing here yet. Now, okay. So now it's applying the operating system. And what we should see is that it's downloading it from the cloud. And that is exactly what you see there. So it has gone and understood that this is a cloud-based scenario for OSD imaging, and it is pulling the content directly from my CMG distribution point. And this is actually amazing, right? So it's finally available in Config Manager, and I think what we're going to see here is more improvements to what you can do here. So the one thing that you need to be aware of course, is that when you're downloading from the internet, unless you've got a very fast internet line, it's going to be slower than downloading from a local distribution point. So in my case, I have a 100 megabit switch, which is also connected to everything else that I have here in my house, including all the kids' computers, and they're downloading their stuff and whatever. So my experience is that installing an OS from a cloud-based source, such as a CMG, is quite slow, much slower than an on-premise installation. On-premise installation could take maybe 12 minutes for this simple task sequence because there's no customizations in it at all. But for this one, when it downloads from the cloud, as you can see, it's not so fast. And another thing I noticed is that sometimes it just times out. For example, it is starting to download and then it will produce an error. But the good thing is it continues. So it will retry and it will retry and it will continue and continue to download the content until the operating system is downloaded and all the apps and it's installed. Another thing to keep in mind about OSD deployment via the cloud is if you're using drivers and driver packs, the traditional way of doing it, it's not a good idea because it's going to download each blob, each file, and it's going to take forever to download even one driver package. It will be a far better idea to zip up your drivers into one file and download that instead, and then extract it and then install your drivers that way. But anyway, this is all new. It's something that you can experiment with today, and I highly encourage you because it's really cool. I mean, look at what's happening. COVID sucks. It's given us so many restrictions, but it has enabled so many cloud-friendly features that are now available within Config Manager today in the technical preview release. So please, if you haven't already done so, install it, try it out. If you've got a problem, come to me and I'll help you, or tweet to David James, who is the engineering head at Microsoft for Config Manager and Intune. That's pretty much all I have. I don't know if I'm too late or too early, but...
Right on time, Niall, right on time. We still have 5 minutes left for any questions in the chat window, or if people want to unmute, they can fire away.
Okay, cool.
super interesting session, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this stuff. If any of you are not aware, oh yeah, there was one thing I forgot to tell you. That is, if you can all go here to niallbrady.com. I'm just going to show you. And what you'll see is I blog about all the stuff I'm talking about. In fact, I blog about a lot more than I'm talking about today. But one of the interesting things is down here on the right-hand side of my blog, you will see there's millions of categories. And I mean, it almost looks stupid. But if you keep on going, you will see that I've separated into System Center Configuration Manager Current Branch and System Center Configuration Manager Technical Preview. And I'm telling you, I've tested pretty much every single release except for maybe 3, right? And where the excitement in terms of cloud attach really starts happening, Tenant Attach, I should say, is in 2002.2 of Technical Preview. And you can click in there and go to that link, and you will learn how to enable Tenant Attach. And then, remember, what I've been showing you today in terms of all the new features, well, I've shown you some, are in Technical Preview 2005, right? So they're all there. I've listed it there, how I did it, and so forth, and how you can do it. And if you bookmark my blog, this is one of my blogs, you will see that, you know, as soon as the next release is out, I'm going to blog about that too, and explain how you can expand on these cloud features. So I highly encourage you to head over there, bookmark it, click on the categories, and you will see, okay, exactly what I'm doing and how it works, right?
One of the things that may be worthwhile mentioning, Niall, on the technical preview is that there's like a scorecard system in there which guides you through the most relevant features of every technical preview. If you go to the documentation, there's always a section called "Try it out." It's pretty good to get started.
The what's new part, I think, yeah.
So in the what's new, you will see that there's progress. You can go through the things that interest you, right? Because maybe improvements to the content library cleanup tool are not interesting to you or to me, right? I mean, maybe it's not something I'm interested in. Okay, maybe it's a great feature, but maybe it's not something I'm interested in. What I'm really interested in is all this cloud-friendly stuff that's now connecting Config Manager to Memac, to the endpoint console in the cloud. All right.
And if I have this right, you can go back to previous versions as well. If you unfold the what's new in 2005, you have also the previous versions, and then you can do still the scenarios there. So you can pick them wherever you want. So it's pretty cool.
And there's even a history in here somewhere. I can't remember where you can see.
It's in updates and servicing. If you go to updates and servicing, and then if it refreshes, top left, history, the top left button, you were there. It was just there.
Because I want to show you this, because I've tried so many versions. All right, there we go.
There it is, yeah.
So what you can see here is I'm sad, obviously. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And the reason why is because I love it, right? But I can tell you from this point onwards, it has got really, really exciting. And if you haven't installed Technical Preview yet, you should, because you're missing out. It is awesome, all these new features.
Okay, I think that almost concludes our time. We have 1 minute left, and I see there's one very important, relevant question in the chat left, Niall, and that's what happened to your mohawk?
Okay, I can see who it is, right? Okay, so what happened was it's COVID, and I couldn't go to my local hairdresser, as I usually do every 2 weeks or so. So what I did was I let it grow until it looked terrible. And I was tired of looking at myself in the mirror. So I took one of those shaving implements and I shaved off all my hair. So I was bald. And right now it's about, I don't know, 4 or 5 millimeters. It's growing back. I will get back there again
So
someday.
it's a work in progress.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Niall, for a very interesting session. It was really cool to have you on our evening. I think it's time to move on now to the last speaker for today, and that's Karel. Karel, are you ready to start presenting? Are you in the call?
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Niall. Okay, that is Karel. We can't hear you, Karel.
You're still muted, Karel, I think.